Hey, I'm Hilton Wright. I'm an award-winning, 6-time Billboard #1, platinum and gold record producer and songwriter. I've worked with artists like Drake, Mike Posner, Big Sean, Sofia Reyes, Casta Blackish, Faith Evans, and many more. Today, I'm going to take you underneath the hood and show you some tips and tricks directly from the Reason sessions of some songs in my catalog. So let's jump right into it. So the first song I'm going to pull up is one called Hurt Me. This was actually one of the first songs I released as a producer artist. It was a collaboration with an amazing artist, vocalist out of Northern Ireland by the name of Larks. This is a small but mighty little trick that I did. I don't know where I got this idea, but what I ended up doing was I put a polar, and I'll show you here, to have a pitched down effect on the delay signal. So there's a part in the song where I have kind of like a chopped and screwed vocal, which is my vocal. And I'll have links to this song with a playlist where you can hear all of these. I won't play the full song right here, but I'll skip to this section. Please don't hurt me, baby, just work me. Please don't hurt. So that's me, extremely pitched down, doing this, kind of like screwed vocal that I pitched down. But to match kind of like that same feeling, what I did was I took that delay, and if we go back to this polar, you'll see that this polar is actually, turn the rack around. I'll hide these cables. It's coming from the delay into the polar and then back out. So that's on send number 4. And so I'll solo this out so you can hear what it's doing.
You don't understand, baby, grab my hand. I'm falling like a domino.
So if you listen closely, you'll hear her delay, but then you'll also hear, because remember, given that it's on a send, it's giving like, what is this? 25%. This is more like 35% of that lead is going to the delay. So it's like subtle, but like it gives like this nice kind of like feel. And when I say feel, I mean FILL, how it feels like the space of the verse. And it gives this kind of like ethereal like feel, which matches the tone of the song. So I'll play it with everything else.
You don't understand, baby, grab my hand. I'm falling like a domino.
So you barely hear it, and you can hear both of them. Now I'm going to turn off the polar just so you can hear the regular delay.
You don't understand, baby, grab my hand. I'm falling like a domino. I'm a Capulet, call me Juliet.
Now I'll turn it back on.
You don't understand, baby, grab my hand. I'm falling like a domino. I'm a Capulet, call me Juliet. Will you be my Romeo? You're all of the mistakes I'm making. I recognize the risk I'm taking.
Back on.
A little bit of soul destruction. You got it.
So it's one of those very small things that makes a huge difference when it comes to the feel and the feel. Like, so both the FILL and the FEEL. All right, so next we're going to get into a song called High Altitude that I did with my good friend, amazing artist, Chell Strong. I have Native Instruments Maschine over here, and I love Maschine, but I don't use it in the traditional sense that a lot of people do. I like to use the patterns in Beatmap, also drum sequencer as well, and trigger Maschine. So it's this whole mix and match and marrying that I do with Reason devices triggering Maschine sounds. what I think I did first was really kind of like found a kit that worked well in Maschine. And so like once I had that, this pattern, like if you look at beat map, it comes from the Uncharted map. And you know, this sounds like this is a very like boom bap type of like pattern. And this Uncharted is weirdness, exotics, doublets, and traplets. But it's sometimes it's about like putting that unordinary with, I wouldn't even call this ordinary, but just like something that you wouldn't think would match. I'm gonna send this pattern to the track. So as you can see with the original, there's all this information down here that if I press on it, it doesn't trigger anything. It's all the sounds that were in this upper register. And usually C1 is where you find that kick, but here C1, it's nothing there. And so I got rid of all of this information because what was playing up here, which might have been more percussive elements, maybe this was, you know, a kick. Now obviously C3 is also a kick, but it just worked out. And so you see when I deleted that information, how this looks the same. And so that's just one of those cool, like I said, kind of like happy accidents that you get when you take sequencer pattern info from one instrument or one world, rather, this being the world of the Reason, you know, sequencer or a rack extension, and then apply that to sounds in a bank like Maschine. So yeah, that's kind of like a quick tip is just like mix and match those things and you'll find like some happy accidents. The next song we're going to get into, this is Only With You, a song I did with Ray Gifted Keys, an R&B artist based out of Detroit.
Only with you.
So as you heard in that last chorus, just to give some more texture, I brought in one of my favorite guitar players, just actually the A-list acoustic guitar. I'm gonna solo this and let you hear what I'm doing and how I was able to get away with it to make it sound realistic. So this song has a lot of sevenths and ninth chords, you know, R&B, soul, it lends its way to that. And so one of the major, you know, keys with this A-list acoustic guitar is when you flip the rack around, it has enable the full chord set, which when you turn that on, it's able to recognize a lot of those, you know, major and minor sevenths. And the improved chord recognition helps with like the two note intervals as well as like the full chords. And so turning that on and then dragging down the MIDI information that is on this main pad that's playing here. Let me play that. So for the most part, I was able to I think I dragged that down, but there looks to be like a lot of trial and error happens. And this was one of those things to where like I'm in the mix. I felt like something was missing. I wanted to give something extra for this last. I didn't have time to run through the Rolodex, see who could do it, maybe even budget to call in a guitar player. And given that it's tucked and you can see like some of the effects that I have on it, I have a pulverizer on here, just kind of like giving it a little dirt. And then also, heavy on the reverb. So that way in context,
Only with you. I'll lay around it with
you barely hear it, but you feel it. And when it gets towards the outro, you hear it more. You're like, oh, wow, that was a guitar. That's cool. All right, so another quick example is my song, Middle of a Memory, which was done in collaboration with a Scottish dance duo, two brothers. They go by the name Able Faces, also known as MCN2.
Drop down, let me get right. Take off with the green light. Oh no, I'm not running away.
So that's first verse. Second verse, we get the introduction of
You stare into my eyes.
a Rhodes
I don't want to disguise. I know
and that guitar. That they have played some guitar that comes in later towards like the end of the song. But it was one of those things to where they're in a different time zone. We were up against the gun and I know what I wanted, but there wasn't enough time. And they were also busy working on some other stuff. And so I was able to find something that I snuck in. And so the exact guitar that I was using comes from, this is either from disco school or soul school. And so the way that, and I use those all the time, great resources, great, guitar, bass, drums, that's exactly in like the vein of what, it's supposed to be, like funk soul stuff. And as you can see, my BPM is 119. That BPM was 116. And the key, I don't know the key of this song off the top of my head, but I'll usually look for something that's around. And so this was in F minor. So this song here must have been either F sharp minor or its relative major, because you can see I did a global transpose down one, right? So this is some light music theory stuff, but it's helpful just to know these things because you're like, okay, cool. I know I want something in this vein. These are all the different tools and libraries that I have. And I love all the stuff from Reason Studios because, and this is a much older refill, but it's so useful. And so it sounds like it's the same guitar part, but it's not. If you see here, this is 6 and 5, right? So I did a pattern select, and it switches. So if I was to play this back, so it's a very small difference, but again, like it's one of those things where like as a listener, you won't notice, but your ears will appreciate it. And so again, like back in,
You stare into my eyes. I don't want to disguise. I know.
and so then at the end, what I did was this was 6-5, then I went 5-6, and you hear like the more longer patterns play out. So what's really important about that is, so I play it in context so you can hear, and I'm going to show you something really, really cool.
Dancing in the middle of a
So here's the one from the verse, right? It's guitar 4 copy. You notice I have the amp envelope down to 41. This one that plays in the last chorus is up all the way. And just understanding how in a verse where you're not trying to crowd the vocal and you need that guitar to just kind of like lay in there and be purposeful, that's the thing to where you're like, oh, well, I can just pull back the decay on the amp envelope and it's going to give like more of like that muted feel. So if I was to play this and turn it up, so that's where it was. That's where it is. Here's where it was. So that's a big difference in terms of like the feel and the funkiness it gives it. And it still sounds realistic, right? And so it's just knowing how can I use these things in a way to where I can get away with them because I need that texture. So anyway, I copied this thing that was here. I think I had this first where it was at the end. And then what I ended up doing was when I was listening back, and I think a friend of mine was like, yeah, you need something in the second verse. I was like, oh, well, I want these guitars, but I knew that it worked better with this 6 and then the 5 and then decaying it.
You stare in my eyes.
And it, like I said, it elevates the song, and it's a very minor, but yet advanced kind of like way. So hopefully you were able to get something from that. Definitely reach out, connect, and follow me on social media. My handle is Deuce WT. That's DEUCEWT. I'll put it here with a link in the description, and you'll be able to check me out there. And yeah, I'm excited to hear the music you make and the different ways you approach the process after checking this out. And definitely be sure to check out my class on studio.com. Click the link in the description. Go make some music. Peace. I'm Hilton Wright, and welcome to my studio. I'm a 6-time Billboard #1 platinum record producer and songwriter known for my versatility across the industry. I've written and produced hundreds of songs for the biggest artists in the world like Drake, Mike Posner, Big Sean, Sofia Reyes, Faith Evans, and many more. I've composed award-winning music for TV, including the song Juneteenth for the hit ABC TV show Blackish. And I've scored commercials for the biggest brands in the world, from Walmart to Jeep. To maintain this level of creative output, I've developed my own unique set of tools, templates, and techniques that allow me to consistently transform my ideas and inspiration into finished tracks. If you're the kind of person that makes tons of loops and voice notes but struggles to actually finish your tracks, you're going to learn methods in this class to help you get to the finish line more often and more consistently. During the class, I'll bring you into my studio and share with you my entire creative process from start to finish. You'll follow along as I transform a simple idea into a finished song, starting from brainstorming initial concepts, crafting lyrics and melodies, and producing the final track. Along the way, I'll be explaining everything that I'm doing, my thought process, my techniques, the exact tools I'm using, and the decisions I make. I'll show you how to create the perfect balance between verses, choruses, and bridges, and how to produce and arrange your song to enhance its emotional power. Woo, that's gonna be crazy. By the end of the class, you'll have new tools and techniques that'll hopefully help you more consistently turn your ideas into fully realized finished songs. So come join me, Hilton Wright, for this unique learning experience inside my studio.